The group chat notification pops up. Bachelorette weekend. Save the dates. Details soon. So excited. Priya taps it open, sees 3 heart emojis and a countdown sticker. She has no idea yet that this weekend is about to cost her more than a round-trip flight to Europe. By the time the actual itinerary lands, 3 nights at a destination house, matching outfits, a group dinner nobody asked the price of beforehand, 2 activities billed as just Venmo me, the total comes out to just over $1,400. A comparable flight to several European cities, booked the same week, was under $1,200. Here's the number that should stop you mid-scroll. A weekend meant to celebrate a friend now regularly costs more than an entire international trip, and almost nobody in that group chat ever agreed to that number out loud. This isn't a video telling you not to celebrate your friends, or that destination bachelorette trips are inherently bad. It's a video about why the price tag keeps climbing without anyone ever actually voting on it, and why saying so out loud feels harder than just paying it. Let me show you what's actually happening. My name is Alex, and today on Wealth Adjacent, we're taking apart the celebration that quietly became a financial obligation nobody's allowed to question. Quick disclaimer, not financial advice, just numbers, and I'm not telling anyone to skip a friend's celebration. Let's meet Priya. Late 20s, genuinely loves her friend, said yes to the group chat within about 90 seconds, the way everyone always does. She didn't say yes to $1,400, nobody did. That number just sort of assembled itself, one group decision at a time, and by the time it existed as a single total, it was already too late to meaningfully object to any one piece of it. Here's how it actually happens, piece by piece, and it's worth walking through slowly because the individual steps genuinely do look harmless. The destination gets picked first, usually somewhere that sounds exciting in a group chat, before flights or lodging get priced out at all, chosen on vibe rather than budget. Then the house gets booked, split evenly regardless of who actually wanted the nicer place with the pool versus the person who would have been happy in a much smaller rental. Then someone suggests matching outfits, a group dinner at a specific restaurant nobody's checked the menu prices for, an activity that everyone's doing. Each individual piece, on its own, sounds small and reasonable in the exact moment it gets proposed, which is precisely the problem. Here's the part that should make you sit up. None of those individual decisions ever get evaluated against a real budget, because nobody wants to be the person in the group chat asking, wait, how much is this actually going to cost total? Multiple pieces get greenlit with heart emoji reactions before a single running total ever gets written down anywhere, which means the group is agreeing to fragments, never to the actual sum they're building, and the first time anyone sees the real number is usually the final invoice or the group payment request, long after every individual decision has already been locked in. There's a specific reason nobody pushes back, and it's worth naming directly. Suggesting a cheaper option in that group chat doesn't just risk sounding cheap, it risks sounding like you don't care about the friendship as much as everyone else clearly does, at least based on how enthusiastically they reacted to the last 3 decisions. That social cost feels bigger in the moment than the actual dollar cost, even when the dollar cost is objectively enormous, because nobody wants to be remembered as the person who made the celebration feel smaller. This runs on the same reciprocity and social comparison mechanisms we've talked about before, just wearing a different outfit. Once 2 or 3 people have already said yes enthusiastically, saying anything other than "sounds amazing" starts to feel like breaking from the group, not just making a budget decision. The group's own excitement becomes the pressure, without anyone in it intending to pressure anyone else at all, which is exactly what makes it so hard to name in the moment. There's no single person to push back against, just a mood everyone's collectively building together. And there's a specific financial pattern hiding inside "just Venmo me" as a phrase, worth calling out on its own. It removes the moment where a total price would normally get discussed out loud before agreeing to something, replacing it with a request that arrives after the activity's already happened, when saying no is no longer really an option, since the dinner's already eaten, or the excursion's already booked for the whole group. There's also a comparison worth making explicit, because it rarely gets said out loud in the group chat itself. A regular weekend with friends, staying local, splitting a modest rental, or just meeting up for dinner and drinks typically runs a small fraction of a destination bachelorette total, while providing genuinely comparable time together and connection. The destination and the matching outfits add real cost specifically for the aesthetic and the photos, not necessarily for the actual quality of time spent with the person being celebrated, which is worth sitting with honestly before assuming a bigger trip automatically means a better one. So here's the actual fix, and it doesn't require being the person who ruins the group chat. Ask for an estimated total range early, before individual pieces get locked in, phrased as a practical question, not a complaint. Something like, should we set a rough per-person budget before we start booking things? Suggesting a number before spending starts is a completely different social move than objecting to spending after it's already happened, and it almost always lands better because it reads as organized rather than critical. If a budget conversation genuinely isn't going to happen, at minimum, ask for the running total as pieces get added, not just your individual share of each one. Seeing the number climb in real time changes decisions in a way that seeing isolated, small individual costs never does, since $300 feels very different from just 40 more for the boat thing, repeated 5 separate times. So here's where we land. This was never really about anyone being a bad friend for feeling priced out. It's about a group decision-making process specifically shaped to add up piece by piece, in a room where questioning the total feels ruder than paying it. Priya's group ended up asking for a rough budget range on the next trip, framed simply as wanting everyone to enjoy it without financial stress, and the tone in the group chat didn't shift at all. If anything, a few other people quietly admitted they'd been wondering the same thing the whole time and just hadn't wanted to be the one to say it first. It's worth naming that being the one to ask the budget question first often turns out to be the most appreciated move in the group, not the least, precisely because everyone else was quietly hoping someone would. The awkwardness people imagine before asking is almost always bigger than the awkwardness that actually shows up once they do. There's one more pattern worth naming, since it shows up specifically once the trip is over. A meaningful share of people who attend a destination celebration like this report feeling some version of quiet relief once it's finished, not because the trip wasn't fun, but because the financial tension underneath it finally lifts, a tension that was rarely acknowledged out loud by anyone the entire weekend, even as multiple people were privately doing the exact same math in their heads. None of this is really about the specific friend or the specific celebration. It's about a format, the destination group trip, that's become the cultural default specifically because it photographs well and generates its own momentum once the first excited message lands in the chat, regardless of whether it was ever actually the option that best served the group's actual budgets or preferences. Ask for the number before the pieces start piling up. If this helped, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what's the most a group trip has ever cost you that you never actually agreed to. I'll see you in the next one.